20 years is the number. No, that's not my age, but that is the age of the vehicle behind me. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, what we're test driving this week is the 2016 Toyota RAV4. This is, after all, the hybrid edition. Now, the Toyota RAV4 has been out for around about 20 years, and with those numbers, well, has come perfection. So let's take a look. 20 years old is about the right age for really the RAV4 to figure things out. Now, we all remember our teenage years. That's usually the awkward moments, and well, we've come well past that, and also the infancy years, the first years this vehicle is out. Now, one thing about the RAV4 that I've liked is really it has matured, and where you'll see that is on the outside, and the hybrid, well, niche has really perfected itself too. All that coming together really has shown itself here in 2016, and what you truly see first off is on the outside. Now, what I like is we got away from the geekish RAV4 that I remember and gone to more of a sleek exterior. And where you see that is in the profile. Now, is it reinventing this wheel? Well, not necessarily. A lot of this market is somewhat blending in. Now, what I like on this particular model is we have a little bit of chrome accents with black. Now, you've heard me before, too much chrome is too much bling, and well, black accents truly do it well. Now, where you see that's around the window, little chrome here and there on the door handles. When you sweep down, this is where you're going to change over to the black accents, more of a rubber cladding, typical for kind of minimizing scrapes and dings. So if you don't remember 20 years ago when this bad boy came out, well, let me refresh your kind of painful memory. Now, what that was is a lot more upright, less kind of cool, and more vertically challenged, meaning pretty much straight edges and bubbled corners and just, well, awkward. Now, with age, again, comes more of a fine wine, and what we see here is the kind of artistic approach to design, something that's really evolved over this RAV4's history. Again, what you're really seeing that's different is the sloping compared to 1996, just not there. A lot of sculpting on this vehicle. As you get to the back end, a little more sporty than, of course, I remember really starting with the spoiler. And as you look back here, a little bit more flare, even right down to the taillights really protruding from the back end. Now, what does this all say? Is really this market, this niche, even the hybrid area has really come to its fruition and really helped, well, evolve this little segment. Swinging around to the front end of the RAV4, what we're going to see here with the, well, grill warfare is really no grill at all. And what I'm referring to really is the front end really looks more nose-like, nosing into traffic, because if you look for the grill, well, there's not really pronounced one at all. Really more of a slit up here and maybe a frown down below. This vehicle kind of giving you a face-like appearance at the front end. Now, what you're going to notice, the way this is a hybrid is on the sides, of course, the term hybrid, but up front, the nice Toyota emblem adorned in blue. Now, you do find a little black kind of bright accent here, and the headlights really menacing, but the whole package really comes together with this front end sweeping forward, protruding out, and, well, minimizing overall the grill warfare. As you can tell up front here, well, this front end is going to still collect enough, well, shrapnel when it comes to bugs. It's going to really eat it up just a hair. Now, when it comes to safety, this vehicle delivers quite well. And you got the parking sensors at the back, the backup camera, blah, blah, blah. But what we also have is right up here front and center. The nice parking assist in the front, and what's that? A nice camera. That's going to help this vehicle, even though it's not huge inside, really dive into those tight spots. Now, what's great is they've really coupled that with the back camera and, well, what's that? Side cameras mounted on the mirror. Now, what that does is really give you a 360 bird's view, and there's actually another safety feature we'll get into in just a second, really going to help minimize the scrapes and dings and getting into those tight areas. Don't forget this is a hybrid, so as we sweep around, make sure you look for the awkward and geekish features on this vehicle and see if you can even find any. Now, one feature we're going to talk about really is right here at the driver's door. There's a lot going on. First off, right here at the mirror. Now, these mirrors have really developed over the years and seen a lot of innovations. First, starting with the blind spot awareness. That's a little illuminator here. Lets you know when vehicles are in that blind spot and turns on. Of course, it goes off as they get out of the way. And that's going to couple together with tons of other safety features like backup collision alert, this blind spot awareness coming from the sides, and some total other cool things. Now, what you also have here is a little blinker illumination. And one nice feature is if you're in those tight spots, really minimizing scrapes and dings, heck, just flip that in. That way it's tucked in nice and tight. Now, another feature really is the smart key systems. A lot of vehicles coming with it, even here on the RAV4. What that means is pretty much keep it in your pocket, no traditional key, Put your hand right here, it knows you're there, and now the vehicle's unlocked. Now what's great about that, pretty much makes quick access getting to this vehicle. Now another nice feature is when you're leaving the vehicle, nice little kind of touchpad here. Just simply press it once, locks the whole vehicle, walk away. That really makes it crucial and heck, just so much quicker and easier. Now one last feature on this side really is the fill up area. Now this is, well, maybe a little bit old school. What I'm referring to is, well, it doesn't unlock and lock with the vehicle, but instead has the old pull handle right there by the driver's seat. What does that mean? Well, nothing really, just keeps it nice and secure. What you'll see under here, well, is the good old cap system versus the new capless, which I'm really starting to become a big fan of. When you look at this RAV4, we can tell the differences over the years. One big difference here on the hybrid, well, is what's under the hood. Now, the way you can tell this vehicle is a hybrid is right behind the wheel. First thing is the fuel economy. The second is that gauge cluster. Now, when you look at the power plant, what do we have here is a 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder engine. Now it's going to have a basic horsepower around about 150 horses and 152 foot-pounds of torque. Now for the hybrid system's net horsepower, that's around about 194 horses. Now what this engine does is it features 3 electric motors. The first one's function really is for the generator. The engine starter charges the hybrid battery. Now the other 2, well, they're a little bit more functions. The second one really driving the front wheels, regenerations during braking, and the last one is the rear electric motor that drives the wheels and also does regeneration during braking. Now all that combined really gives you a lot of fuel economy and does that whole hybrid combination. By the overall numbers, the RAV4 is going to fall in just a little bit smaller in that mid-size segment. That crossover-like feel truly is on paper. Now what you're going to see is around about 181 inches overall. Wheelbase around about 104. Now decent numbers for a midsize, going to creep up into the 185, 189, so it's not too far off a decent sized vehicle. Now what you're also going to find is average ground clearance around about 6.3 inches. Now it's going to be a little bit above a sedan and of course less than an SUV. All that combines really going to give you the best of both worlds. Now one of the things to talk about really is traction, and what's great on this vehicle is it has it at the 4 corners, known as all-wheel drive. Now this is truly one of the best features here on the RAV4. You got the nice engine at the front end, and heck, this may be even second to the best part of this vehicle. Really the blending of the car-like feel with the qualities of an SUV. Now one thing before we dive inside, again, it has the backup camera and those backup sensors, really giving that 360 view on this vehicle. Now what's great about this particular model is it does have a power rear hatch. Now there is a nice little button pressed here, nice up and high, or you have it on the key fob. Now I like the key fob because pretty much you stand out of the way. Now what you're going to notice with this back hatch is, well, it's somewhat slow when it gets up to where it's going. Now one thing I do like is this height is adjustable. When I first test drove this, it was a little bit lower, but you can simply adjust it and set the memory here at the button. Now once you open this up, what you're going to see is a wide opening, really be able to handle anything. What we did is actually took a quick day trip to the beach, threw tons of things in there, of course sand as well. Now what you're going to see, what you're looking at is around about 35 cubic feet of space, easily triple that of a sedan. Now with the back row laid flat, what you're going to do is double the amount of space, and with that split configuration there in the second row, you can easily transform this into various cargo options. Diving into the cargo area a little bit more, we all know that this can handle gear quite well, but this is also a good place for, well, tailgating. And where you see that really is in the low height. It makes for a nice little niche to sit down and entertain. One feature that makes it a little bit harder is, well, there's no power supply hookup back here, meaning the entertainment's going to be missing, but at least you have a nice seat. Now looking at the cargo floor just a little bit more, what you're going to notice is one nice big area to lay everything down, and what's even better is what lies beneath. Now what you're going to see here is a nice full-size spare, something that's really hard to come by in a lot of vehicles. Over to the side, the battery packs, really keeping them away from the heat of the engine. Now what you're going to notice also with the cargo floor is this elevated area. Now what we found, this is just kind of a little niche. It's going to have some tools in here, but it became, well, somewhat awkward with maybe this flooring, because instead of it being one flat area, it was raised right here, but, well, no big deal at the end of the day. I must admit, anytime I see the term hybrid, I get a little squeamish when it comes to interior comfort, because after all, they spend a lot of time under the hood. Did they forget about the inside? Well, that's far from the case here. Now, what you're going to notice with the RAV4 overall, the numbers, well, again, are somewhat small, but inside, really big. What I'm referring to is the legroom. What I found up front, around about 42.5 inches. In the back seat, didn't drop very much, around about 37 inches. anything again over 35 is decent comfort. Now what I really like is what you see behind the wheel, and that reminds you that you're in a hybrid, and it starts right here at the gauges. Before we look at the dash, let's look at the sport seating in this vehicle and this two-tone leather. Now, if you don't like the really appointments here, well, order something else, but it wasn't quite bad. The brown itself really blending quite nicely and contrasting the darker gray. Now, what you see is really a sport style seating, and it's not too bolstered on the side. Really, I found about anybody can fit in here with pretty good comfort. Now, for this particular model, the passenger side was manually operated with the driver's side being powered. Looking a little bit closer to the screen, what you're going to find, this is the split system here, really with your audio on one side, navigation on the other, and where you'll find that is under the home screen. Now you have various apps, of course. This can help you navigate the system as well, and what I found is I pretty much used it on audio all the time. Now the climate's pretty much handled below, so you don't have to worry about clogging that area with that. And with this as big as it is, you really have what we call that 360 view right here on the screen. Now this 360 view is the safety feature I kind of hinted at earlier, and what that does is really sweep around the car almost like you have your own specialized camera system, really allow you to look for kind of anything that may ding or hurt the car. Now as you go to back up, this is going to switch to the mirrors and give you this to the side. All this really providing safety that I've not really seen anywhere else. Looking at the climate controls, what you're going to see is this really doesn't interact with the touch screen. It's really separate, and I like the fact that the dash kind of protrudes forward, making this an easier stretch for the driver. Now this does have dual climate controls up front, and you can sync it up, pretty much making the front passengers the same. Now easy controls, pretty much the fan speed, mode select, and this is more of an auto feature here. All this combined really is nice and simple. One thing not to gloss over really is starting this vehicle. Now the proximity key, the smart key system, really keeping your pocket, the good old push start. And that's not the exciting part. Really comes down to when you crank it, because once you press the button, you're not going to hear anything. Instead, it's just going to start up. Now the way that is because the electric motors and everything's going, but when you're ready to hit the gas, pretty much the vehicle's going to start right up and get going. Now what's great is that really makes it nice and quiet when you need it, but when you need that power, hit the gas and go. When you finally make it to the gauges, this is where you're really going to notice the hybrid really on the left side with that kind of modified tachometer. Now it's going to give you the indicator really of your driving performance. Obviously when it's charging, more in that electric kind of saving mode, and the econo, of course, giving the best fuel economy. With the power, there when you need it, simply taking over and giving you the thrust down the road. Now the old traditional analog speedometer is on the far right, and one thing I couldn't find is real crucial to me, and that is the digital speedometer, which you should find in the middle. Instead, you pretty much found a lot of information, but that space would be crucial and better used with a nice digital readout for your specific speed versus the old needle option. Now what's great with all the safety system as well, it coordinates quite well with the cruise control, and that is that radar-like system, pretty much meaning you set the cruise in tight traffic, it's going to know the spacing between the car you want and keep it that way. Once the vehicle's out of the way, it's going to resume the speed you set and cruise on down the road. Way down, tucked under the dash, is going to be the various driving modes, the EV, the econo mode, and the sport. Now the sport's really going to take over, deliver a little bit more oomph when you get down the road. Now you do have heated seats here in the front, not real crucial this time of year, especially being summer. Now for connectivity, far over on the right side, the USB connection, auxiliary jack, and a power supply. Looking in the second row again, this is going to be pretty decent legroom numbers really right through here, and you have a little bit of cupping of the back seat, all this combining for decent comfort for pretty much any size individual. Now when you look at the two-tone system like we have here, again, it could be a little too stark for a lot of people. Plain Janes are going to go all black or gray or something. You know, what you see is pretty much standard bench seating. I like the fact we don't really have any cupping here, so pretty much no individualized attention, but that also means there's no hump here in the middle. Now when you look at the cargo options, again, you can fold these down, this side being a little bit wider, pretty much pull a handle, tumble it forward. Now what's great is you can tumble these headrests forward if you need to, depending on the seat position, but obviously there's plenty of room here. One thing to also note, there is slightly an angle, and that's what that little niche is. What we talked about earlier is really to accommodate for that, really allowing for that slope all the way from front to back. Now once you put those back in space, what you'll also find is you can pull the handle here and recline these seats for a little bit more comfort when you go down the road. Last feature really is right here between the seats themselves, and that's a nice elbow support center console. Now there's no storage here, but it does have room for 2 cup holders and of course space for your elbows. Now this is a hot summer day, and one thing to note about that is back here in the back seat, One thing you're not going to find is, well, any vents. Now you will find the traditional ones under the front seats, really going to cool it off really from the floor up. Now that's problematic because, well, it just takes too long to really feel the airflow back here. Now, of course, you can use those center vents like the good old days when we were kids, lean into the middle, scream and holler and say, I'm hot. But what I'd prefer is at least to put some vents here on the side pillars, or heck, even on the back of that center console, easily helping cool this back seat down a lot quicker. Now, judging for this edition reward in our test drive behind the wheel of the 2016 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid Edition. Now, the things we liked, of course, was that interior volume, plenty of legroom all the way around, and heck, that cargo to boot. Don't forget, we got that combination of electric gas engine, really delivering decent power and fuel economy. And after all, this vehicle is in its 20s, meaning it's really in its prime of finding its niche and heck, looking pretty good. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.